Hey there, baseball fans. It's your host, Mitch Gatzke, and this is Ducks on the Pod, episode number 11. Coming at you a day early this week. As I mentioned on the show last week, I'm going to be down at Comerica Park the next two nights to watch the Tigers play the Orioles. But I did want to get you the show in a timely manner, so here I am on Monday night recording just a day early, and I've got the Rays and the Indians on. It's Chris Archer and Carlos Carrasco. And to be honest with you, baseball fans, I don't want to spend any more time than I have to away from this game. So I'm not even going to do a starting lineup. You're just going to want to follow along with this show at fourlights.fm/Ducks/11. And yeah, here we go. To start the show, I wanted to touch on the job that the Houston Astros did over the weekend, taking 3 of 4 from the Yankees in quite a big weekend there in New York. First, that game on Thursday night, the Astros pull out a close 3-2 win. Jake Marisnick cans Jacoby Ellsbury at home to seal it. Carlos Correa hit a 2-run bomb in the first. But in the 5th inning, I was very impressed because Nori Aoki reached on a fielder's choice. He stole second with George Springer at bat, and Springer put together a great at bat, lined a single into center. Aoki came around to score, and that piece of good baseball ended up being the difference in that game. There were 2 outs when Aoki got on, and they didn't give up on that inning. And again, that ended up being the difference in that 3-2 game. It's just one of those little things that you see from a team that makes you think they are in for something special this season. They can make a long run because not only can they win with the long ball, they also do the little things like this that help you win a ball game. You saw it on Thursday night. Dallas Keuchel was tremendous again. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 walk, 1 unearned run, struck out 9. Aaron Hicks, actually the only Yankee in that starting lineup that Keuchel did not strike out that day. Astros come back on Friday night, get a 5-1 win. Then Saturday's game is postponed due to rain. So that set up Sunday, which was all of a sudden a doubleheader and the night of Derek Jeter's jersey retirement ceremony. Quite a big day. Astros dropped the first one of the doubleheader, but come back in Sunday Night Baseball. Again, they really impressed me with the way that they came out swinging. I mean, Springer led off with a home run. Reddick hit the first pitch that he saw over the fence. So back-to-back home runs on consecutive pitches to start the game for Masahiro Tanaka. He got rocked around. That wasn't it. The Astros loaded the bases, and Alex Bregman hit his first dinger of the year. All of a sudden, this game is out of hand, and the Yankees haven't even come to bat yet. Springer then starts the second inning with his second of the game, and it's 7-0. Tanaka's recorded 3 outs. I said it in the preview show. This guy, George Springer, is a two-way superstar. He's the one who gets this wildly talented Astros lineup going. He's also leading the charge of new leadoff hitters, a new brand of leadoff hitters, if you will. More on that later in the show. But Springer's got 5 leadoff bombs this season, tops in the show. Of course, he continues to play excellent defense at a premium position as well. So look out for George Springer. He's all-star game worthy, a guy that you definitely want to check out. I also want to elaborate on Bregman, too, if for no other reason than the circumstance here, because he wears number 2 because of his idol. That would be Derek Jeter. You may have heard that they retired his number 2 at Yankee Stadium on Sunday evening. I wasn't going to get into it, but since we're here, despite seeming like a no-brainer, this decision to retire Jeter's number 2 has been met with quite a lot of opposition. There are a lot of people trashing Jeter's legacy because he didn't lead many offensive categories during his career, or because, contrary to popular belief, the truth is he does grade out to be one of the worst defensive players ever to be allowed to continually occupy a premium position. And when you think about it, Jeter's reputation as a plus defender was based on three things. The flip, that incredible cutoff play that he made against Oakland in the 2003 ALDS. Then the catch that he made against the Red Sox where he dove into the seats and came out with a couple of cuts on his face. Totally overhyped play, by the way, because he did catch the ball and then his momentum kind of took him into the stands. Anyway, those two plays and his patented jump throw, which pretty quickly turned him into the closest thing baseball had to Michael Jordan. Those three things, though a bit deceiving, exemplify exactly what made Jeter a Hall of Famer. His baseball IQ is through the roof, and he played his heart out. You can't take that away from him. We'd never seen a play like the flip before because no one had ever really thought ahead that far and tried to make that play possible. That's why it really is one of the most unbelievable plays you will ever see by a shortstop. Now, the legend of the diving catch has well surpassed the reality of it, but still, it does go to show the tenacity that Jeter played with. So, no, I'm not going to sit here and diminish Jeter's accomplishments. I'll leave it to some of the snottier baseball writers who seem to feel it's their duty to trash guys who are now retired and can no longer defend themselves with their play. I understand wanting to balance opinion with fact and make sure we don't get too carried away, but I do not understand people all of a sudden changing their tune on Jeter now that he's been retired for 2 years. Put it this way, all things considered, Derek Jeter is a sure shot Hall of Famer in my book, and that's about all I have to say at this point. We have some years before we're even beginning to talk about his Hall of Fame candidacy, so let's just put it on the shelf for now. I do have to mention, though, last thing, that plaque that they got looks nothing like Jeter. They got to do something about that. And if you're Jeter and you unveil that thing, how do you feel knowing that you're going to be immortalized as this hideous-looking bronze figure? It really doesn't even resemble Jeter at all. Anyway, back to Bregman. It just so happens to be the night of his idol's jersey retirement ceremony, and he comes up with 2 outs in the first, and the bases are juiced, and he smacks his first long ball of the season. It's ironic because in showing off for his hero, Bregman kind of ruined Jeter night. I mean, at this point, it was 6-0 in the first. His slam probably came within about a half an hour or so of the ceremony, and it prompted a decent amount of people in attendance to simply pack it up and head home. Make no mistake, this guy Alex Bregman is a hitter, if nothing else. All he's got to do is figure out how to be consistent at this level. It does take guys a little bit of time to do that. But now that he's got one, more will surely be soon to follow. For whatever reason, baseball fans, I seem to be driving around a lot late on Sunday evenings, and for that reason, I've come to fall in love with John Boog Schambi and Chris Singleton, the broadcast team for ESPN Radio's presentation of Sunday Night Baseball. This past Sunday, I was on my way home late, and this was just such a fun ninth inning with these two. They are so entertaining and inclusive. They do a fantastic job making the listener feel like they're actually a part of the broadcast with Twitter incorporation and just the running jokes that they have. They really make the listener feel like they're a part of it. Schambi does some of the television games, but I think he's at his best on radio because he makes routine ground balls sound interesting. His pace and the emphasis he puts on words makes it very easy to follow along with the game. Singleton offers great analysis from a former player's perspective and also just that of a fan of the game. All told, the two make an awesome broadcast team, and they've been working together for so long now. They know how to play off of one another. They've got a similar sense of humor, and they can seriously entertain beyond the field of play during a broadcast. At this point, I sound like some kind of a sports broadcasting super snob, I'm sure, but I felt obligated to mention John Schambi and Chris Singleton because they were at their best during that ninth inning Sunday night. Anybody who had the pleasure of listening knows exactly what I'm talking about. Between Boog's easy on the candy big guy story where he told this story about him going to the ESPN cafeteria and the candy vending machine is right in the middle of the room, and this guy he didn't even know came up to him and just said, "Hey, easy on the candy big guy." It's funny to hear him tell it the way he told it. Maybe not so funny now. Between that story and the rogue whistler, you probably heard him even if you were watching on TV, because there was a guy at Yankee Stadium on Sunday night who was just, I don't know how he was doing it, but he was whistling up a storm. You could hear him clearly on the broadcast. I was laughing out loud with nobody else in the car on my way home last night. So I will be highlighting more of my favorite baseball broadcasters throughout the season. There are many of them out there doing great work that should be recognized beyond just their local region. But I did want to start with my favorite team going right now, one that you're actually probably at least a little familiar with. They work for ESPN. John Boog, Schambi, and Chris Singleton. So tune in for their call of ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, because I promise you will not be disappointed. So I mentioned this new brand of leadoff hitter as I was talking about George Springer's performance from over the weekend. And there is a bit of a leadoff hitter revolution going on right now in baseball. David Schoenfield of ESPN.com wrote about it last week. And I'm glad Springer showed out over the weekend because it gives me an easy transition into the topic. It wasn't long ago that your leadoff hitter was almost always your fastest guy on the team. We're still transitioning away from that, as continually evidenced by the Billy Hamilton experience in Cincinnati. He's having a great season at the dish by his standards, but still below average no matter how you slice it. So home runs are up across baseball, and the leadoff hitter is no exception. Teams like the Astros, Cubs, Indians, and others are starting to make a major philosophy change. And it comes down to this. You want to put pressure on the opposing pitcher as soon as possible. And baseball as a whole used to subscribe to the idea that the best way to do that was to get a speedster on first and have him dance around the bases in an attempt to distract the pitcher from his more important task at hand. Well, it seems priorities are shifting. Now, many teams are deploying some of their most formidable bats at the very top of their lineups. In effect, they're cutting right to the chase, saying, hey, these are the guys we have who do the most damage. So let's send them up there to start off and turn the first offerings of the game into pressure pitches. Stolen bases are down. Big flies are way up. So really, it should come as no surprise that leadoff hitters are playing a big part in both of those trends. Of course, much of this new phenomenon has to do with the options available. 14 players swiped at least 30 bags in 2016. 38 players smacked 30 or more round trippers. Simply put, there's much more elite power available now than there is elite speed. And most of the reason for this change, I think, is nothing more than the age-old supply and demand concept. There are fewer guys capable of being that traditional leadoff man we're used to seeing, and as a result, we're seeing more of this new age leadoff hitter. Speaking of what's available, take a look at which teams Schoenfield mentions in this article. The Cubs have an abundance of power bats, and frankly, no other place to put Kyle Schwarber, who's really been struggling so far this season. The Royals' offense is so bad right now, they couldn't score 9 runs in a game if they got to start each inning with a runner on third. So why not put Mike Moustakas at the top? It really can't get any worse. The Orioles haven't used a conventional leadoff hitter in ages. The way the ball flies out of Camden Yards, they've been smart not to. The Indians are my favorite example here because they're a little bit of both. Last year they had guys holding down spots in the meat of their order, but no one making the number one their own. That is until Carlos Santana became the first long-term leadoff slugger experiment, at least the first one that I can really remember. He's the one that kind of stuck to the job, continued to draw a high amount of walks. He struck out a lot, which, again, a bit weird considering the way the leadoff hitter has been thought of for years now. But in this shift, everybody's striking out. So really, it doesn't matter if your leadoff guy strikes out just as much as everybody else if he's drawing walks to offset that. Carlos Santana certainly is. He was the most interesting case to me. The first one that I really noticed when I first saw it, I'm thinking, what is Francona doing here? What's the goal? How long is this going to last? Well, it's lasted quite a long time, and he is really a key part of their offense. You saw it in the playoffs. In the World Series, they had to send him out to left field, a position he rarely played, because they needed his bat at the top of the lineup. So he's the most interesting case to me. We move over to the Mets. They wanted Jose Reyes to be their man. He just wasn't getting the job done, and now they've turned to Michael Conforto, a guy who didn't even have a full-time gig until the team suffered a series of injuries. And then there's the Astros, whose lineup is really an embarrassment of riches with the depth and versatility they have available to them. All this is to say, my point here is another big reason these 6 teams have these 6 guys leading off on Monday, May 1, is because they've either got too many options or not enough options. They can either afford to go the unconventional route or they have no choice. Whichever it is, they have nothing to lose by bucking the speed at the top trend, and it's working for them more times than not. I mean, obviously, not every game your leadoff hitter is going to go 4 for 4 with 4 runs scored. Sometimes he's going to have those 0 for 4s. It's going to happen to everybody. But more times than not, at least what I'm seeing, is this unconventional approach is working. Whether you see it in improved performance from the leadoff hitter or just better runs scored, more runs scored by the team as a whole, as a bit of a domino effect from pitchers having those stress pitches so early in the game. You can't settle in when you got Kyle Schwarber up to the dish first. Joe Madden has talked about it. We've heard other managers talk about it. More of them are trying it out. It's something to keep your eye on for sure going forward this year and in years in the future. I don't think home runs are going down. I don't think steals are going up, at least not for the time being. So we might have to get used to these leadoff sluggers and the revolution, really, that we're seeing in the leadoff position around baseball. So I mentioned at the top of the show that I'm watching Rays and Indians right now. It's actually getting a bit ugly. It's the top of the third, and it's 6-2 in favor of the Indians. Archer's been knocked around. Carrasco's struggling with his command right now. So this one's kind of been a stinker, but it's got me looking ahead to the week in front of us, and I'm noticing a lot of action out west. So I'm going to go ahead and title this week A Night Owl's Dream, because the Mets are in Arizona, the White Sox are in Los Angeles, the Brewers are in San Diego, the Athletics are in Seattle, and the Dodgers are in San Francisco. That is 5 quality series that you could watch if you wanted to at 10 o'clock or later. You know, if you're in the Eastern time zone and you like to stay up late like I do, here are some options for you. Tuesday night, Zach Greinke takes the mound for the first time following his flirt with a no-hitter. Last Thursday against the Pirates, Greinke went 8 innings, striking out 11 and allowing only 1 walk and 1 hit. That was a solo shot from Gregory Polanco in that 8th inning. The Mets are a banged-up swing-and-miss type team, so Greinke may be in for another stellar outing, maybe one you want to tune in for. The White Sox in Los Angeles, I was always told that if I didn't have anything nice to say, then I shouldn't say anything at all, so note the silence here. But seriously, right now, these are just 2 mediocre teams hovering around 500 for the time being, and the fact is I wouldn't advise you to waste any time watching this series. The Brew Crew heads out to San Diego. Chase Anderson has been pulled from each of his last 2 starts with 2 outs in the 5th, only to have the Brewers score in the bottom half both times. So he's come up just an out short of a win twice in the past week. Got to see if he can turn that around here on Monday night. Eric Thames continues to be one of the most intriguing players around, for me at least. Was his early outburst of power real and something we can expect to see from him? Or was it just a prolonged streak for a guy who started scorching hot? A couple of big flies in a series can get a guy going, and that's certainly a possibility in Petco Park. The A's and the M's, Andrew Triggs has come out of nowhere and really helped out the A's, who had Sonny Gray out to start the year and really not much else in the way of proven pitchers. He takes the mound Tuesday with a 2.21 ERA in search of his 6th win. And then the main event, I guess you could call it, even though the Giants really aren't very good, this still is a pretty big rivalry. The biggest in baseball, I'd say, now that the Yankees and Red Sox have kind of taken a few steps back in terms of intensity. Wednesday afternoon, you can tell your boss you might as well leave early because you're just going to be watching Clayton Kershaw and Johnny Cueto anyway. These 2 battled back on May 1 at Dodger Stadium. Cueto earning the win in that one, going 7 strong innings of 3-run ball. This will be Kershaw's 9th start of the season, and he's yet to pitch outside of the NL West division, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. He's had the Rockies 3 times. This is his 3rd crack at the Giants. The Padres have seen him twice, and he's faced the D-backs once. This doesn't really mean anything in and of itself, but it is interesting, and it does go to show just how concentrated divisional play is at the beginning of the season here. You're going to want to watch Cody Bellinger. He's been an absolute hitting machine since being called up in late April. Through 69 at-bats, he's sporting a 319, 397, 696 triple slash line with 7 homers and 19 driven in. It's not often you call up a 21-year-old to the bigs and a month later he's your best hitter. Right now, though, that's exactly what's going on for the Dodgers. Those are all the notes I have for you. Check out those 5 series, except that one that I told you not to check out. Again, I really just can't resist the opportunity to hate on the White Sox and the Angels at the same time. So completely disregard their series. Watch the other 4. Stay up late with me this week. And yeah, enjoy a night owl's dream this week in baseball. That's going to do it for episode number 11. Thanks so much for joining me. You know the drill by now. Follow us on Twitter at DucksOnThePod. Like the Facebook page. Rate the show. Review the show. Subscribe to the show. Tell your friends. I'm your host, Mitch Gatzke, signing off. Until next week, baseball fans, remember, keep your glove on the dirt, your bat off your shoulder, and always keep your eye on the ball.
Back, gone.